So again, how was your Christmas? How was your holiday?
That was the good part. It was nothing happening, so that was good. Yeah, fortunately they didn't play a game on Christmas. I know, obviously a couple teams did.
Right, right. Wait, so if you don't mind me asking, where are you from?
Well, I'm from Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
I went to school at Northeastern, so I lived in
Oh,
Boston for a while.
nice, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your boy John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another with my boys Barry, Vlad, and today we got our special guest, journalist Karen Guregian. How you doing, Karen?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well. Thank you so much for being on Pro Fan Sports Podcast. You know, it's it's pretty cool to have, you know, such a heavyweight on here because we're listening to you ask these players questions every week, and you know, you ask such great questions, and you know, we admire your work and love everything that you're doing with the Boston sports.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. I mean, first of all, how was your Christmas? Happy holidays.
Oh, it was good. It was actually quiet for a change. You know, there were no games. Well, no Patriot games. There were games on Christmas, but I didn't have to cover them, so that was a good thing. I actually had a day off.
Awesome.
Nice, nice. That's what's up. That's great.
That's good. You know, I'm definitely glad the Patriots game wasn't on Christmas, right? Because
Me
that
too.
that wasn't the best Patriots game to see. You know, I mean, we're so used to, you know, seeing the Patriots have a bad week and then the next week we see a bounce back. But this week, you know, was another one of those, you know, weeks where we didn't look as prepared. And I think this is the first week we didn't force a team to punt at all, right?
Correct. For the first time ever for a Bill Belichick coach team. And that
Wow.
has to say
Really?
something, you know? Yeah.
It does. Wow. I did not know and realize that that's the first time in the Bill Belichick era that his team has not forced at least one punt during a game. I did not know about that. That's pretty telling. And
Defensive mastermind, but yesterday Josh Allen had his number.
sure did. And Sean McDermott, too, had his number as well. They looked like they figured out the Patriots defense, and Patriots didn't really have an answer for them at all.
Well, they didn't make any adjustments, and which was a little bit odd to me, but I almost think that they just sort of thought or assumed or figured that Josh Allen was going to make a big mistake somewhere along the line.
Which he almost did, right?
Was that?
Which he almost did by throwing that ball directly to J.C. Jackson.
Correct. And they were basically playing, I mean, they didn't touch him really, but I think obviously his ability to run the ball made them play back, you know, or they didn't really challenge him in the pocket. But I think they just figured, you know, he was going to mess up at some point, and he didn't. He played a pretty perfect game with the exception of that one pass that was almost picked.
Yeah, for sure. He did play pretty well and, you know, had an impressive performance. I didn't expect him to be able to be, you know, that accurate and, you know, and that precise and dominate the Patriots defense that it did. It seems as if he just did whatever he wanted. You know, when he wanted to drop back and throw the ball, he was able to, you know, pick and choose who he wanted to throw it to and where he, wanted to throw it, and was able to make the throws, that he had to make. And then he was able to run the football. He had, several big runs, including that 4th and 1 that, Jamie Collins and I think J.C. Jackson had a chance to stop him, and they just completely whiffed and missed them. I thought they were going to be able to come up with the stop there because it looked like they had a good angle on him, and they just flat out missed. And he made a play, and
Right.
that was pretty much the game right there.
I mean, I feel like the last time he came to Foxborough, he played lights out, right? Because I think they put up 38 points on us last year. So I mean, I wasn't very surprised that he was doing what he was doing, but it just seems like the defense couldn't make any timely plays at all. Yeah. And Karen, I think you're right, because I didn't really see any adjustment from first half to the second half, because usually there's some kind of wrinkle we throw in there to at least throw guys off a little bit.
Well, the last 3 games, so he torched them in that game that you talked about last year in Foxborough, torched them this year in Foxborough, and it basically took an act of God for them to kind of slow him down in the game in Buffalo with the gale force winds,
Yeah.
So I just think that Belichick hasn't quite figured out the best way to defend him, because again, early on in his career, he would make the mistakes. He just couldn't help himself. And as the years have gone on, I mean, he's matured, he's progressed, and he's not always making those killer mistakes. And again, that's my read on why they made no adjustments, was because they thought that put them in the best position to bend and hopefully don't break, but they did break. But bend until he made a mistake.
Yeah.
He just didn't make the mistake.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yesterday, Mac had his worst game as a pro so far. What do you think's happening with Mac? Has he has he hit the wall, or our team's just figuring out that if you stop the run, then Mac's gonna unravel at some point?
Well, I think what you saw during the 7-game win streak was the Patriots kind of always playing from ahead, and it's a lot easier for him as a rookie quarterback to lead a team when you're ahead, as opposed to having to come from behind. That makes you have to throw the ball more. And again, it's not, the Patriots just aren't built offensively to be coming back and having to score 30 points every game. Mac has been really good kind of in a controlled environment. By that I mean the defense keeping the score down and then leading with the running game, and basically having him pass in short yardage, 3rd and short or whatever it might be. But the last 2 games in particular, stop the run, put the Patriots in longer yardage on 3rd down. And again, it's putting more pressure on Mac to have to deliver, especially being behind. And the other part of the equation, I think, is now he's having to deal with cold weather and conditions that he's just not quite used to playing in. So, I mean, his ball sailed on him yesterday. He was in terms of accuracy, that was the worst game he's had, and accuracy is his forte. So I think it's going to take a while for him to, again, acclimate and adjust to the conditions he now has to play in.
Yeah, for sure. I think I agree with you guys. Last game was definitely his worst game in general, and he didn't have a great games. Well, he didn't start great against the Colts either. Later on in that game, he got better, but definitely seeing, him as a rookie, for 7 weeks, he was looking pretty clean. But now you're seeing some of his mistake as a rookie, which I expect. I feel as though a lot of people were comparing him to Brady, which is
Ludicrous.
unfortunately,
That's a good word to describe it. I agree.
anybody that's coming behind Brady is gonna be compared to him, unfortunately. But he's only a rookie, so I don't expect him to be great. I expect him to be good as a rookie, and he still has a chance to be Rookie of the Year, which is good as a rookie. So, but to go back to what you were saying earlier, Karen, the Patriots did not make any adjustment, and I'm just surprised that they didn't cover Isaiah McKenzie or switch the defensive coverage on Isaiah McKenzie. And I guess Bill Belichick usually thinks, your third best receiver is not gonna beat me, and I bet you that's why he didn't make any adjustment. But look at what beat us. He's the third best receiver.
That guy was on point, man.
Yeah, and Miles Bryant had he couldn't cover him, period.
No.
And they didn't make any. Obviously they're missing Jonathan Jones, who would have had that assignment, but he's done for the year.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And I think certain teams, like the Bills, like some other teams, like Dallas, can earlier in the season can expose the Patriots secondary. Because again, if they had Gilmore as the 1 and J.C. Jackson as the 2 with Jonathan Jones in there, that's a good secondary. But you've taken away the best, your shutdown corner. You've pushed J.C. Jackson into the number 1 role, and while he's done okay, now you have Jalen Mills essentially playing out a position as an outside corner, and you have another undrafted player, Miles Bryant, trying to make up for Jonathan Jones. Now the Patriots have been able to kind of hide and cover that weakness with a pass rush. But guess what? The last 2 weeks, this last week in particular, there was no pass rush.
Non-existent.
Right. None whatsoever. Right.
A pass rush is a secondary's best friend.
Fact.
And again, you can see they get exposed when Matthew Judon isn't in the backfield every play, or Barmore isn't, disturbing the presence up front. And again, they can be exposed if they don't get that pass rush.
Absolutely. That's a fact.
Well,
it sure is.
With the Patriots losing that game, they're now in 6th place in the AFC playoff picture, and they're most likely not going to win the AFC East, with the Bills having to play the Jets and I believe the Jets and Atlanta. I believe they.
Right.
So they're set to win the AFC East, and I'm afraid that I don't think we're gonna lose to the Jags, but we might lose to Miami. And what does that put us? Does that put us outside of the playoff if we lose to Miami?
It could very well. And I put it this way, Miami would vault ahead of them because they've beaten them twice.
Yep.
So, Miami plays the Saints tonight, but the Saints are starting a rookie third-string quarterback. So Miami's going to be loaded for bear, playing at home. They've spoiled the Patriots' playoff runs before late in the season.
Oh yeah.
And boy, would they love to do it again, especially after starting 1-7.
I know, that's insane. It really, really is. And I hope it's not the same, story that we've seen several times, and especially in 2019 when they came here, and the Patriots pretty much You know, we thought they were going to win that game. They had, you know, the home field
we had
advantage.
Rob Gronkowski at safety.
Right.
They had the top seed up until that last week, and when Miami beat them, they didn't.
Yeah, I know. They just didn't show up and play as well as we thought, clearly, and they underestimated Miami, and Miami made them pay for it, and they didn't put pressure on, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he had all day to throw, and he absolutely picked them apart, and and was just slinging that ball everywhere on that game.
They thought they could just show up and win that game, but
exactly. Yep. Sorry about that. Yeah, they did for sure, and they didn't definitely come ready to play like they haven't in the last two games, and it was pretty sad and unfortunate end to that season, because obviously we know what happened next. They ended up losing in the wild card round against the Titans. I just wanted to ask you, Karen, if this team does get into the playoffs, how far do you think they can go based on what you've seen in these last two games? And they've been playoff kind of like games, and they haven't really played well, under those, circumstances. So how do you feel about this team's, chances in the playoffs?
Beating teams left and right and winning 7 straight, I was thinking they would at least get to the AFC Championship game, at least.
Right.
But after watching the last 2 games, I think I've had to dial back the expectation a little bit, because again, 3 weeks ago, they were the AFC's top seed. They were going to get that bye, and again, when they get a bye and come, that's been been their recipe for getting to the Super Bowl in all their, in all the years, having that first round bye. But now they've lost that. They're going to be a wild card team, if that. And the road is just tougher. And again, you have a rookie quarterback, and it's just now, I would say, a little too much to expect for them to win like 2 and 3 and 4 games to get to the Super Bowl. If they win one, if they get in, that's good. If they win one, I would say that's about where they're at.
So are they capable of winning a playoff game on the road? I know they played pretty well on the road this year, but how do you think about that?
It's so weird. They're not that, they haven't been that good at home.
Been terrible at home, awful.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it will have to do with the matchup, and how they match up with a certain team, and if Belichick can get in the head of the quarterback that they're playing.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Our pass rush definitely got to get there, because we definitely need that help to get teams. Because as you can see, if another team scores 17 in the first half, then we're done.
We're toast, right?
We're out of there.
I mean, and just to that point, it's just not necessarily fair to expect your rookie quarterback to bail you out. I mean, Tom Brady did it every time, but he's not Tom Brady.
Right.
And
exactly, there's only one.
When you had Tom Brady, you could get away with falling behind 28-3. You could get away. You could get away with quite a bit. When you had Tom Brady, you could get away with having no really good receivers, no running game. He would somehow make it work, especially when he was younger. But now you don't have that luxury, and you have to, and during that 7-game stretch, the Patriots were doing really well with the formula or the way that they had to win games. They were winning games. The last 2 games, that's kind of been thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Sure.
I saw some really funny things in that game yesterday as well, as far as like officiating. I feel like the refs made some calls and then picked up the flag, especially on that roughing the passer one, and Max going out of bounds there. What do you make of that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like they were, I don't know, making really funny decisions.
you know, the way the league runs, they protect the quarterback at all costs. At all
Right.
costs.
Mm-hmm.
Mac was clearly out of bounds when he got shoved. Even even if he was trying to hold him up or whatever, he had his hands on him out of bounds, and he's a quarterback. I don't know how you pick that flag up. I just don't, and that would cause the chain reaction of David Andrews, getting a taunting penalty. It caused one of the offensive, Trent Brown, to lose his mind.
Brown, right. He got a taunting unsportsmanlike.
So, it was like all these aftershocks of that non-call. The Patriots, though, did score a touchdown, so it ultimately, in that sequence, it didn't have, maybe it spurred them on because they scored a touchdown not long afterwards.
Yeah, it looked like they really wanted to protect Mac. You think it had anything to do with the Bitcoins they got for Christmas?
Yeah. Well, Mac was actually asked today if David Andrews deserved another one for that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wish that. I appreciate the offensive line, protect them in that sense, but I just wish they would have actually protected him better in pass protection and pass block, and not let the Bills' defensive line and really front seven get as much pressure as as they did yesterday. Because this guy, was absolutely getting killed and was seeing bodies all over him all game long. And they definitely need to keep that energy and use that to pass block than to be taunting in guys' faces, even though I understand why they didn't. I appreciate it, but save that energy for some good use.
Yeah. Well, most of that pressure came early. And I think if you can pressure him early, it impacts him the rest of the game. He kind of gets out of rhythm a little bit. He wonders where it's coming from, and I think it impacts him until he's finally, it took him a half to get over it or to get focused or centered again. And, his second half was better than his first. It was the same thing against Indy. But I think if teams pressure him early and kind of get him to speed up and get him out of rhythm early, it takes him a while to get back in that good place where he's back in rhythm.
Yeah. Right. Are you concerned about this offense, particularly with the guys around Mac and the way they've played the last two games? And any big concerns you have with any of those guys?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think if they have all their running backs playing, and they can, again, if they can dictate terms of a game, which they have done quite well, whether it's winning in the trenches, running the ball down people's throats, they'll be fine. But it's hard to do that nowadays in this NFL, and especially as many times as they want to run the ball, to have one back doing it. So, so it's having the tandem, I think, is good. But Ramondre Stevenson was on the COVID list. So.
Oh boy, not good.
Right. So it just gets tougher. They don't have, they traded Sony Michel, so they don't have the depth at the position that they would usually have normally without injuries and COVID.
Yeah, and also don't throw N'Keal Harry the ball unless you absolutely have to.
Thank you, John. Thank you. My goodness.
The
My
stat,
God.
like 48% of the time, when you throw to him, it's either a completion, a fumble, or some disaster happens when they
Right.
throw in his direction. Interception.
Yeah, I mean, it's
48% of the time. I mean,
yeah,
holy smokes.
I thought this game was going to be the game for him. You know, like, hey, man, this one's yours. You know, you can step up and, you know, change things a little bit. No, you know,
Nah.
not this time. You
Nope.
know, Karen, we don't have you for too much longer. You know, I've been reading your columns for a long time, and you know, I think you're one of the people that make us want to get into the sports industry and you know get into covering teams and stuff like that. You know, what made you start off, you know, as a journalist and want to cover teams?
Well, it might not look like it now, John, but I was an athlete at one time, many years ago. I always loved sports growing up. And it's funny, it wasn't necessarily football. I was a big baseball fan. My father would take me to Fenway Park. I have two brothers, but he'd take me to Fenway Park because I was the one who showed the interest. But I played sports. I really enjoyed sports. And I guess when I figured out that playing shortstop for the Red Sox really wasn't a reality, it wasn't going to be a reality. Then I said, well, you know, I love sports so much, I wanted to stay around sports. And so a teacher suggested, she thought I wrote well, well, why don't you become a sports writer? And even back when I started, that wasn't necessarily a profession for females to pursue, but I did anyway, and I've been at it for almost 4 decades.
Awesome.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's amazing.
Your name's definitely one of the names that always comes up whenever I'm reading coverage on the Patriots and everything that's going on around them. So as that has been a really long time. You know, what is your favorite part about covering teams, you know, in the Boston area?
Well, I have to say, you know, during my near 4 decades of coverage at the Herald, it's like I couldn't have been dropped into, you know, covering professional sports at a better time. I mean, I haven't always covered the Patriots. I started covering the Bruins, and then I did a lot of Red Sox and a lot of, I mean, I covered about 10 Masters with Tiger. So, I mean,
wow,
it was just a great time to be writing about things. I was at when the Patriots won that Super Bowl. I've been to all their Super Bowls. I covered every single one of Brady's games. I was there in New York when the Red Sox beat the Yankees after they were down Love 3.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
and
wow, that's awesome.
And then in St. Louis when they won. So, I mean, you know, a lot of people would love to be me. And
definitely. I would. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I consider myself lucky. But the biggest reason is I'm doing something I love to do. I love covering sports. I love meeting athletes and picking their brains and, you know, trying to write stories or write opinions that the fans can relate to, or stuff that they want to read about or want to know what my view is on certain things. And, you know, I just enjoy it very much, and I'm lucky I still do.
Absolutely. You know, I think you mentioned a little bit, you know, this industry is pretty much male dominated, right? You know, and I feel like I'm seeing more and more women as of recently, you know, in the sports industry, but I feel like it's not nearly enough yet. So like what are advice you have for, you know, women out there looking to crack into this industry?
Well, you know, as long as you know your stuff, I mean, that's the first thing and the most important thing. But, you know, it's tougher for women, especially if you want to have families, be married, because again, you know, you don't have your weekends if you're covering football. You don't, you know, and you're constantly moving from place to place. It's tough to bring up kids. Although I know women who have, and they have, you know, God, my respect. But it's just tougher because of the demands now on the job, especially with, you know, the internet. And it's like if you're on a beat, you're responsible like 24/7. So in that kind of environment, it's just tougher and tougher, and not just for women, for men as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys have a last question for Karen before we let her go?
I'll let Barry ask the last question.
You know what time it is? This is what I do right here. Not the closer, so about to close this thing out. So Karen, you were talking about all the, you know, great, you know, sporting events that you've been to. I just wanted to know, what's your favorite sporting event that you've covered in your career, and your top 5 Patriots?
Well, God, I just named you. God, when the Red Sox won the World Series, I was there. When Adam Vinatieri kicked the field goal, I was there. I mean, it's so tough because there've been so many good ones, and it's not just local teams. You know, I've covered 2 Olympics, and those were
awesome.
Walking the Masters alongside Tiger was, you know, out of sight. I mean, so there's been so many different things, but I'll tell you the highlights that stand out, as I was saying, is when I get to talk to athletes or meet great athletes, you know, and I go far back. You know, I've met Bobby Orr, but one of the stories, I'll tell you this story. I met Muhammad Ali, and
That's awesome.
And they let me, I got in, he was speaking at a college, and I forget the college, but after he was done his responsibilities, they took me into a private room, and there I was with Muhammad Ali, looking, you know, prepared to ask him a ton of questions. And the next thing I know, he puts his hands up, and he wants to like spar with me. Here I am.
Wow.
With Muhammad Ali. I mean, you know, he wanted to know if I had a right, or, you know, a hook, whatever. But it's stuff like that scenes like that are kind of indelibly printed in my brain. And as I said, I've just been so lucky because I have a million stories just like that one.
Amazing.
That's incredible, remarkable. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's, you know, it just blew me away. Wow. That's something else.
Muhammad Ali, man, that's pretty wild.
Right, it's as big time as it gets, right there.
Not many people will ever have that kind of story. So, you know.
Right.
And the fact he wanted to shadow box with me blew my brain. It really did.
I hear. No, that's definitely blows mine too. But I know it's, like you said, pretty incredible and memorable, and I'm sure some you'll remember for, you know, the rest of your life. So no, that's good for you. Glad you're able to experience that.
Karen, do you have a top 5? Do you have a top 5 Patriots or no?
Oh, of all time?
Yep.
Yeah, for you.
Well,
for you personally.
Well, you know, you got to put Brady at the top of the list.
Right. Right.
Okay, you know, it's like everyone after Brady. You mean?
Pretty much, right.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched so many great Patriots. I mean, I'd put Ty Law in that category. There's 2. I would put Rodney Harrison in that category. There's 3. I would put Adam Vinatieri on that list. That's 4. I've never seen a more clutch kicker than him. And talk about moments. I was standing in the end zone with the snow coming down, because they actually brought the media to the back of the end zone for old Gillette Stadium. So when he kicked the 48-yarder through the snow, I was like watching from behind on field level. And the ball went up and it totally disappeared. Totally. So I had no idea, except everyone started jumping around. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was like a whiteout. And he kicked the ball through the snow, 48 yards or whatever the heck it was.
Yeah, we think it was 48. That's right.
And it was a line drive that barely got over the line, but made it all the way through. That was like, I was going to say the most incredible thing I had ever seen, but I really didn't see it because I lost it after the snow.
Technically, you saw it. Technically.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriots also have had like 3 or 4 of the best slot receivers you'll ever see, whether it's Edelman, Troy Brown, Wes Welker. I mean, they kind of invented the position. I have to put Gronk on that list too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I could keep going for days on this list, I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
Right. No, definitely.
Well, Karen, I think we at ProFan Sports are lucky to have you come on and speak with us, for a little bit. So thank you so much for doing that and taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, well, it's been my pleasure. And anytime you guys want me to come back, I'll be happy to join you.
Absolutely. Oh, my God.
That is great. That is, man, wonderful. That makes my day right there. Yeah, we love to have you back on. Absolutely. That'd be pretty sweet. So thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoy the rest of your holidays, Karen. Thank you so much once again.
You too. Happy New Year, guys.
Same to you, Karen. Thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Whew. Man,
that's 4 decades of pure sports, man. And like I was saying, I've been reading that lady's columns like for years. When I was in high school, I'd pick up a Boston Herald every day before I got on the bus, and that's actually how I worked on my English, was because people told me reading helps you. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't like books. So the way I kept reading was reading the sports section every day. So it was the Boston Herald, the Boston Metro. I'm on the train, the bus, just reading and reading, and clearly that helped me out because we're here now. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. There you go, John. As they say, you started from the bottom. Now you're here.
Now we here, baby.
Right. So, shoot. Now that's what's up. That you have you were able to do that, and you had that experience and stuff. And I mean, I've been at the end of hers for a while. Been reading her stuff for a while too. Like since I was younger, and would read the newspaper. Every day. With my dad and stuff, and we'd be reading the articles and going over all the stats from the games, and I always read the articles on there, and so it was a pretty cool and and surreal moment to when she said she'd come on the show, and to just have her on the show, and and have as good of a episode as we just did with her is is really awesome, and and definitely means a lot, and I'm definitely grateful for that. So it's been truly a blessing, the guests and people that we've had on ProFan Sports this year, and can't wait to have even more in the new year in 2022 and moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, people always tell me about how they appreciate that we have women on our platform, and it's like, man, like she said, if you know your stuff, you can come on profansports.com. You know what I mean? ProFan Sports.
So, facts, yes. Let it go, John.
So if you're still watching, man, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Press the like button, the subscribe button. like, share, comment, whatever, and make sure you're following us on all social media as well. It's at ProFanSports on everything other than Instagram, which is at ProFans_sports. You know, and if you want to follow Karen Guregian, make sure you go on Twitter and put in K Guregian. That's where you can find her. You know, she'll keep you up to date with everything Patriots, and so you can see she knows her stuff. And I mean, 4 decades, you got to know stuff, man. You know, all these stories that she got is pretty amazing. So until the next episode, man, we'll holler at y'all.
Peace out. And I was gonna say, I think she's like the female version of Mike Lynch.
Yeah.
That's
4 decades. Yeah.
Right, since they've both been covering, you know, Boston sports for 4 decades and for 40 years. So I kind of, you know, just, you know, made that comparison. Like, yeah, like she's like pretty much, you know, another Mike Lynch. You know, that's what I think. So it's blessed to have them both on, both legends and goats, you know, and what they do.
Absolutely, man. You know, like we said, until next time, we'll catch y'all. Happy New Year, y'all.
Yes, Happy New Year's, everybody. We'll see y'all in 2022. You know, back bigger and better than ever. You already know the vibes. So
'tis the year.
Enjoy your years. Yes, sir. You already know. It's that B Money lifestyle.